This episode is brought to you by the Ghoulish Gallery, Movies for Days, Dewey Pod Monster, The Aardvark and Magic Moshi Do Red Dwarf, Video Tasties, Voices from the Mausoleum, You Gonna Eat That Crust, and Pop Culture Reflections, all members of the You Run Podcast Network, all available at yourunpodcast.com. Hello and welcome back to the You Run Podcast True Crime, part of the You Run Podcast Network, all available at yourunpodcast.com. My name's Scott.
And I'm Heather.
And we are an interactive true crime podcast that gives you the power to choose the cases that we investigate and the option to chime in on episodes across social media. If you don't know where to find us already, it's at yourunpodcast.com, absolutely everywhere. If you'd like to go and follow Heather individually, you can do that as well. It's at Wednesday Wine and Horror on Instagram. If you could leave the show a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, that would be fabulous. If you're watching us on YouTube, click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and the big thumbs up at the bottom. Do all those 3 things that takes less than 2 seconds, and that will boost our show there as well. If you've never listened to the show before, what to expect? We're an opinionated true crime podcast covering cases selected by our listeners in Instagram polls. If you have listened before, you know what you're about to get, especially on today's episode. We bring you we'll get to today's episode in a minute. I'm trying to drag it out as much as I can. Bring you go on. No,
it's okay. Like, we already did the hard episode. We're getting into the extended cut episode, so it's much less stressful, and I won't be doing any crying, which I've got some feedback on our episode. Just so you know, like, a few people reached out to me and were like, Heather, it was hard for me, like, you guys, like, especially me, because I started crying, and they were like, it was hard for me to get through it. I had to pause it and come back. But they were like, it was fantastic. We loved the episode, but gosh, you crying made me cry.
Yeah,
and I was like, this was the sincerity. Like, this was us. Like, this was hard. I don't ever want to do that again. Hopefully not.
No. School shootings are going to stay clear of our polls at least for a while, because it was really hard, and we had so many people reach out to me as well and said, "Is Heather okay?" I was like, "Yeah, Heather was fine after we were done. I think it was good for her to talk through it and kind of have those feelings and say things out loud that normally are bottled up." But everyone also said that we handled it really well, which I was pleased with, because I was worried about how we handled that episode. It was an incredibly difficult subject to cover.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
As Heather's kind of alluded to, we do 2 episodes per month. The first being the main case, where we give you all the facts about the case, and the second being this episode, where we give our thoughts, our opinions, extra information, and we share thoughts from the listeners as well. Last time we discussed the events that led up to the May 24th, 2022 Robb Elementary school shooting in Uvalde, Texas. A brief roundup, if you haven't already listened to that episode: a lone gunman, a former student, Salvador Ramos, entered the school, opened fire, taking the lives of 19 students, 2 teachers, and wounded 17 others. The response from the police and the management of the incident was atrocious. With the school's district police chief, Pedro Arredondo, being fired the following year for his poor handling of the situation. We're going to share a little clip now of some of the events of that day. If you're watching on YouTube, you see this. If you're just listening at home, you're going to hear it.
Yep.
Inside! Go! A new perspective from the darkest day in Uvalde's history. This police body cam footage released Sunday shows the moments officers entered Robb Elementary as a gunman took the lives of children and teachers.
Careful, guys, shot fire.
The officers seen in the hallway inching towards the classroom with the attacker inside. But they retreat after taking fire. The police response highly criticized after this moment by state officials. Instead of confronting the gunman again, officers can be seen waiting for backup. At this point, the gunman has been inside the classroom for at least 10 minutes. Something we also hear in the body camera footage, radios not always working properly, fueling miscommunication. And while police wait, officers are rescuing children from other classrooms inside the school. Then we see a first look at the district's chief of police, Pete Arredondo. He's faced widespread backlash for not breaching the classroom as soon as possible. In the footage, you hear him trying to negotiate with the gunman.
Could you tell me your name, anything I can know, please?
And following this,
You have a child on the line. He is in a room full of victims.
a 911 dispatcher informs officers a child is alive in the classroom. At this point, the gunman has been in the school for almost 40 minutes, and police have been there about the same time. Another round of gunfire is then heard. Arredondo
Please put your firearm down, sir. We don't want anybody else hurt.
tries to negotiate again. The shooter has been in the classroom for almost an hour at this point in the video. The footage, edited by the city of Uvalde, goes dark before officers breach the classroom and kill the shooter. Roughly 78 minutes after he entered the building and took the lives of 21.
Well, I said I wasn't going to get upset, but I'm trying not to because that made me very upset.
Yeah,
So sorry,
me
guys.
too.
I
Uh,
never watched
and
the clips of it really.
No, and I used a very select bunch of clips. There are
Yeah.
clips of the shooter coming into the school, and I deliberately didn't use those because they
Yeah.
are incredibly upsetting.
Yeah.
Hearing the police chief try to negotiate is mind-boggling to me because it's
Mhm.
a very much, please, sir, please put down your weapon, and that. If I was a parent and my children are in that school, that is not the response I want from the police.
Yeah. It didn't it seemed that we were not on the scene. It just his tone seemed sort of like, "Hey, stop." Like,
Yeah,
okay? Like, I mean, I understand that's a stressful situation and it's like every parent's nightmare, especially in the US. And you would want someone to be very vicious in trying to stop it. And it
yeah,
seemed like he had some urgency to his tone, but it was almost sort of like, please, sir. And it's like, what? He's not going
yeah,
to respond to that, right? He's not clearly something is
yeah.
not going to work.
No, I just found the whole thing shocking. Like when I saw the
Yeah.
footage of the policemen stood around and they can't get hold of anyone on radios, it's like, come on, this is kind of what you're fucking trained for. This is why you are there.
Yeah.
You've all gone through this urgent response training for what happens in the situation of a school shooter. You should know what you're doing.
Yeah.
This should be a rehearsed and well-oiled machine that arrive, evacuate classrooms, storm the classroom,
Yeah.
or do whatever they need to do within that protocol. There should not be
Yeah.
30 officers stood in a hallway scratching their ass working out what they're doing next.
And he was in there for 78 minutes. So you're like, what the fuck? That's it. He shouldn't have been in there for 10 minutes and they should have killed him or got him
Yeah.
out or did something. Like, I don't know. I think it's one of those things that we all say what we're going to say. Everybody's going to have their opinion on this. And what would you do if you're actually in that situation? You can say what you want to do and what you think you'll do, and you might freeze and panic because we're humans and that's our response and that's what we're going to probably do. But
Yeah.
again, like you mentioned, they have been trained for years, unfortunately, due to the school shootings continuously happening in the United States. they've been trained on protocol, and I would just say it was a lack of, maybe they didn't train properly.
Yeah,
As
it's
some
really,
other ones would get them out quicker and make it less, if they can, no fatalities, or try to make it as less as possible.
yeah, exactly that. I mean, what we've just played you in our little brief summary of the case gives you an
Yeah,
idea. If you've not listened before and you want to know more about it, go back and listen to our last episode. We're going to kick today's episode off talking about the response of the US government, the NRA, and the gun manufacturers themselves in the wake of this shooting,
yeah,
before getting some thoughts on preventative measures from all of you. And then after we've done that, me and Heather are going to share our thoughts on how we think this should be handled. And I know this is an incredibly divisive subject, and it's
hmm,
something we're going to talk about
yeah,
at length because I think it needs that. Um, the attack at Robb Elementary School sent shockwaves across the United States and through the media. This was the biggest fatality, loss of life in a school
hmm,
shooting ever.
yeah,
Um, it was not only the loss of life, but also the poor response of law enforcement that put it under such heavy scrutiny.
hmm,
Um, on the day of the shooting, President Biden ordered all flags on federal buildings were flown at half mast. And then he made a public address to the nation after this was done. In the address, he spoke about mental health issues, domestic disputes, and people who've lost their way. And he was talking about these people in other countries, and he was saying that these these factors exist in other countries and they do not lead to mass shootings in the frequency that we get them here in the United States.
yeah,
And he called for common sense gun laws to be introduced, but then done nothing. But we'll get to that in a minute.
yeah,
Um, the shooting was also condemned by former presidents Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and Bill Clinton. Less said about Bill Clinton at the moment, probably the better. Um,
yeah,
Yeah, along with lots of other high-ranking officials in the United States and world leaders across the world at the time as well.
yeah,
This was heavily condemned. Um, in Biden's speech, he said, "When in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby?" But he had no plan in place to follow this up. This was just an off-the-cuff statement, and it caused outrage from gun control activists who want tighter gun controls,
yeah.
lost their mind going, you've made this political statement and you've got fuck all meaning behind it. You're just pandering to what we want to hear and not doing
Mm,
anything.
well, so yeah, hot take. That's what most of the people in politics do. And he's
Yeah.
also 647,000 years old. And I'm not quite sure why they thought it was a good idea to have him as president. I ain't vote for him, and I can say what I want to. I'm an American. I have my freedom of speech, right? Like
Yeah.
I didn't vote at all, but come at me if you want. But it's because like I don't know these people. How am I supposed to make that educated? To me, it's like, how am I supposed to know? But yeah, he's super old, and if you've seen him interviewing, I mean, he act
Yeah.
crazy as fuck. Like he don't know where he's at. I
No,
think he does.
no, he doesn't. Um, the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association, for anyone who
Mhm.
doesn't know, and gun rights activists have long been blamed for the government's lack of action. So they've been
Yeah.
basically said that they hold so much power, voting power of the people who are fighting for the rights of guns,
Mhm.
coupled with the National Rifle Association, hold so much power that you can't really go against them because if you do, the chance of you winning the next election is slim. But even
Yeah.
in this case, the NRA said something needed to be done to prevent more deaths in schools. They come up with a plan, and their plan was not to inflict tighter control or limit the age for certain weapons, but instead
Mhm.
considered tighter security in schools with additional offices and hallways and entrances. Brilliant, great idea, love that. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
they then went on to say, let's arm the shooters instead. Let's arm the teachers and train the
Mhm.
teachers to deal with school shooters.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about a
I am I'm that's a tough one because accidents happen. If you're not trained properly, and this is for anyone that likes to shoot guns for recreational or be a responsible gun owner if you do, but it takes a lot of training and you have to know what to do because accidents happen. So I don't feel that that is the safe because you're basically saying, let me take a teacher who is not really that would not be trained long enough in gun control aspects to be the one to fight off a school shooter. And to me, it's like, but that's not their job. It's not the teacher's responsibility in that aspect. They're supposed to keep our children safe. You know, we send our kids to school thinking they're going to be totally fine. And I am more on the side of like, y'all be spending all this fucking money, wasting money on a bunch of bullshit. Make the schools safe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad that you have to do that. Put fucking metal detectors in there. Do something. Retired police officers, anything. You can literally, for less money than I think you think, excuse me, you can literally get the school needs to be like a fucking Air Force base or something. Like you need to, let's keep our children safe. That's what it comes down to. It's the kids
I
safe.
agree. I agree completely. And it's not only a case of the teacher shouldn't have to worry about that extra
Yeah.
level as well. It should be a case of, in my opinion, a school shooter should never ever breach the front fucking doors, let alone get to a classroom.
Thank
They
you. They
shouldn't.
shouldn't be able to get like if they even get to the front door, like get to the front door, like that's as far as you go when.
Yeah.
Like that's you ain't going nowhere. And if they suspect something, they can call law enforcement, you know, like if it looks fishy, of course call. And you wouldn't have these babies getting killed. It just doesn't make any sense to me. See, I'm gonna say this real quick because you don't know because you don't live in the States, but like in Louisiana, particularly in the town that I live in, there is a high school and they literally have redone the football field and it looks like a fucking NFL field. I'm not joking. Like they spend all this money for high school football because these people they fucking get their rocks off by watching who gives a shit? It's fucking high school football. But like that's where the money goes. You see what I'm saying? Like, why are you waiting? They got turf, Scott, like NFL grade stuff. So my thing is like, why wouldn't you make the school fucking safer? What does that? Nobody gives a shit about. I don't care about any type of football, but like, it's crazy to me where your priorities are. Like,
But that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'd probably say
here.
it's a big thing across all of the states, but in the southern states, like
southern states, it's like really hardcore.
Yeah, because that is feeder leagues to the NFL. Like some of these kids will go on and they will play in the NFL, and I'm sure there's an exchange of money from the NFL to the schools for training and like developing these young talents. So is there a financial incentive for them to keep the school safe? Probably not, but I guarantee there's a financial incentive for them to make the football field look good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they redid. It's the high school my daughter went to. Actually, I went to the high school too 100 years ago. But like, and it wasn't really that in depth. But like over the years, they've gotten more into it, and they even have a little saying, a little joke that says "Hold back the holdbacks," because they would take guys that were like, I don't know, freshmen, 10th grade, and they kept holding them back to keep playing. To be like, why does that dude look like a fucking massive stick of meat? And you're like. Oh, he's really 26, but he's in 10th grade, right? Like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm literally not trying to be funny. It's legit shit like that because they're so hard up on. I get it. If you want to do football, okay, whatever. But like, I don't want my child to go to school and me have to fucking stress out. I stress out every day when my kids go to school, and they have the school is pretty fucking safe. It's like it's locked, and you have to buzz in to get in. Classroom doors stay completely closed. Like the kids are not even allowed to go out of the classroom during the classroom hour. Like all the classrooms locked. But anyways, but still, I fucking hate this state.
Yeah, it's
I do.
bizarre. I mean, gun control is a massive issue in the United
Yes.
States, and the reason it's such a big issue in the United States is because it's written into the American Constitution. So the Constitution states, this is the Second Amendment, a
Yeah.
well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right for people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, with this statement in mind and the tragedy that fell on Uvalde
Yeah.
with this school shooting, I went out to our listeners and went out to the wonderful world of social media and asked them, what do we do as a society to stop school shootings take place?
Yeah.
And give me your thoughts on this situation as a whole. And
Mhm.
we got quite a few responses that I'm going to go through.
Okay.
And these are all very individual takes for the people who are looking at this from their own perspective. And
Mhm.
we've literally got the wider scope of responses here. So we've
Okay.
got,
That's what I was
uh,
hoping for.
yeah, we'll start on TikTok. We've got Hey Sassy. I don't worry about my granddaughters going to school because the school has security and there is an officer at the front of the school. So this is
Okay.
someone who obviously have a well protected school, and for
Mhm.
them, they're going, this isn't a problem for us. And
Yeah, it's not as much of a worry. It'd be less
yeah,
likely. I got you. Mhm.
we've got Creepy History Class, which is Veronica, a former
Yeah.
guest on the show.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Taking guns away from people because of tragedies is like taking cars away from people for drunk drivers. It's our Second Amendment right, and criminals will always have them, whether they're legal or not. It's the people
Okay.
who will need them to protect themselves that won't be able to get their hands on them. And I understand that take
Mm.
as well. I get it. I see that point of view. We've got narcotic casserole. A person
Mhm.
who turns up and shoots up a school for giggles is not the kind of person who should ever have access to guns. I
Yeah.
agree.
100%. Yeah.
We've got Scissor Fox. Bolstering security for schools seems a reasonable compromise.
Yeah. You
And
would
again,
think so, right? Like you would think it's
yeah,
that simple.
that's a common sense response.
Yeah.
We've got Honker S. Clownerson,
Okay.
America. The only thing you need to worry about is the cops, the drinking water, going to school, seeking healthcare, being a member of the LGBTQ community. It won't stop there because it requires Americans to value the lives of other Americans.
They're not wrong. I don't
They're
know who that
really not.
is, but they're not
Uh,
wrong. Like America's supposed to be like, it's the freest country. And it's like, at what price? Your fucking life? Like,
it-
what? It's
See,
ridiculous.
this is something as someone from the UK that I find really amusing about the
Yeah.
United States. So it is, we are the land of the free. And when
Yeah.
I hear that, every time I hear that, I go, your fucking healthcare isn't free. That's not free. That shit costs
No,
money.
no, Hunty, no, it's not. Like, it's sad that the healthcare here is so bad that there'll
Mm,
be people I feel like that die unnecessarily because you can't afford certain cancer treatments or certain treatments, and especially with a child. I know they have services, St. Jude's and things like that, where they'll help people. I don't know how far they help. I hope to never be in that position to know, but it's ridiculous. Like
yeah.
I'd rather have the queen telling me what to do. Like I know the queen didn't tell y'all what to do, but it's like she might have, and she might not be really dead. I'm just saying.
It is possible. Over on Instagram, Lady Crisis, who is
Yeah.
wonderful, love Mary.
Yes.
It's such a
Mary.
complex issue. Access to guns needs to be harder, and it needs to start with parents. And
I
she made a
100%
really,
agree with her.
yeah, really valid point that at no point did it cross my mind that it might not be a school shooter like this one going and buying a gun. It could just be a case
Yeah.
of a gun left on the side at home, or the dad doesn't lock his
Yeah.
rifles up, or
Yes.
whatever it
Yes.
may be.
And,
Um,
and also, just to add real quick, that like her saying the responsibility of the parents, I think she also meant, because I know me and Mary are like, we real good friends. So I think she also meant like, because she's a counselor, a school counselor. That's her job. And
yeah,
so I know seeing some, like, if your kids are struggling, don't dismiss that.
no,
Like, take care of the mental health of your child. I ask my kids, oh, I swear to God, 500 times a month. I'm like, are you okay? Are you sad? If you're sad, it's okay. How do you feel? Like, I literally, and they're like, we're okay. And I know they're probably tired of it, but like, I want to make sure, because if they're getting bullied at school or something, y'all gonna see my face like this.
Yeah,
Fuck my
and I do,
kids.
and I do as well. I'm very much like, you okay?
Yeah.
And like, if when I pick the kids up, did you have a good day at school today?
Yes,
What
yes,
happened?
yes.
Like all that kind of stuff. But if I'm honest, that's just part and parcel of being a parent, as far
It,
as I'm
it,
concerned. That's
me,
like
I know, same,
basic
but like,
requirement.
some people
Ba-
don't check in on their children, and you and I have the same mentality of like, it does start at home. And
Yeah.
sometimes kids have problems that it's not anybody's fault, but like, let's try to help. And you can sense your child is acting weird or different or down. And I think if you're even an okay parent, you can pick up on that. That's
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
100% you can. And
Yeah.
as they get older, these conversations change. It goes from not being,
Yes.
did you have a good day at school today? One of my favorite for the boys, when they get up in the morning, they go to college, and they're
Yeah.
grumpy and they're miserable. My normal one that I will go with is, who pissed in your cornflakes this morning? What's the matter?
Yeah. It's
And that,
way different than having the high school boys. Like, see, you're saying they go to college, but technically is that
well,
really like high school? It's a little different. It's not. Or
yeah.
is it
So
college?
effectively, high school finishes here at 16,
See,
and
that's
then
and they go to college.
they go to college. Yeah. So
So
they're
it's totally
doing,
different.
yeah, completely different. We also ran a couple of polls on Instagram
Uh-huh.
to
Yeah.
ask some other questions. So the first one we ran was, does the United States need tighter gun control? 94% of people voted yes.
Yeah. I
Very,
mean,
very clear cut.
it does.
Yeah. And the other one was, should school teachers be armed? 92% of people voted no. Now, we
Yeah.
received one more comment that led me into the most intense research I've ever done into anything, like beyond anything I've done on any cases, because
Uh-huh.
it triggered me a little bit, and I was like, I think you're full of shit, and now I need to go and find
Yeah.
out, because it's
Yeah.
really got under my skin. So this come from Merchant Boom 4.0. Gun
Okay.
control does not save lives. It never has, and it never will.
I mean,
I went down.
that's an opinion.
No, it's not an opinion. It is an opinion. It's an opinion based completely in his head, because I went and done some investigation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I know of a country that used to have legal firearms, including handguns, until they banned them. And I used this country as a case study. That country is my country here in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
We had a school shooting at Dunblane School,
Mhm.
and it caused outrage. There was so the way things work here is, if you achieve 750,000 signatures on a petition, it's
Mhm.
enough to get the subject discussed within Parliament. And
Okay.
after this school shooting, the parents started a campaign and got this conversation started.
Mhm.
In 1997, the Firearms Amendment Act came into play, restricting all handguns and heavily licensed rifles and other weapons. Some of these larger weapons only being legally stored in locked cabinets within gun clubs. Now, what did it do to crime figures? So, since 1997, there has been a 44% drop in gun-related crime, which you'd expect that when guns have been taken off
Yeah.
the streets.
Yeah.
Now, I can already hear the pro-gun lobby screaming, but I bet overall crime went up because everyone's gone to knives and this and that, and this happened and that. I can hear it all already. So I
Yeah.
looked into that as well. Overall crime went down since 1997 by 13%.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying banning guns is the answer, but to say that gun control doesn't work is a false statement, and it is not backed by any facts.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give some facts that everyone can go and Google these facts and check me on them. This is 100% fact. We had handguns, we had semi-automatic weapons. All of these things were licensable, and you could go and buy them and you could keep them in your home. In 1997, the government went, fuck you, you can't do that anymore. And crime from then till now has almost halved, gun crime.
Oh,
So,
well, yeah.
Before me and Heather really go off on what we think, because I think we're both going to have some hot takes, but not even hot takes, just sensible takes, that there is a contingent of people who will hear this episode who will consider them to be hot takes. We're going to take a quick break. So after listening to this episode, why not head over to yourunpodcast.com and check out You Run Podcast member Video Tasties. Video Tasties completes more live stream watch along parties on YouTube than any other account I can find. If you like anything from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s or beyond, they will cover it. Top 10 countdowns and so much more. Fabulous YouTube channel. So head over to yourunpodcast.com and check them out now. Welcome back. Before we really get into this, I want to remind everyone this is our opinions, and you are entitled to your own opinion, and it does not have to be the same as mine, and it does not have to be the same as Heather's. And
That's
me
true.
and Heather have not discussed this, so mine and Heather's opinions may be completely different.
They're going to be soon. You know what I'm talking about, but not on this. I think we're going to be pretty similar on this, actually.
Yeah, our opinions are going to be different on that. I'll touch on that at the end of the episode, give everyone a teaser.
Yeah.
If you want to share your opinions on this, please do, and we will get them into a future episode. You can either do it on Spotify, there's a question there to share your thoughts, or you can drop us an email, yourunpodcast@gmail.com. My thoughts on this is tighter gun control is needed. Now, when I say gun control, when you mention gun control online everywhere, everyone goes, you can't take away our guns, you can't ban it. At no point did I say you're not allowed to have a gun.
Yes.
Like, I don't think there should be a complete ban, because I agree with the people who follow the Constitution of the United States. You are allowed to have guns, and you are, that right is not to be infringed. I get it. But you are not deemed responsible enough in the United States to drink alcohol until you are 21. But you can acquire a gun before that. So I would say gun age limit needs to be up to 21 at a bare minimum. That's the starting point. Maybe at this age have some control over what they have. Maybe they can have a low caliber handgun or a rifle, or make some limits, but make them make sense. I think that any semi-automatic or fully automatic heavy duty rifles should not be available for home defense. Like, I want this. This is a challenge to anyone who believes they should be. Can you please email us with a scenario, a realistic scenario where someone will be attacking you or your property, where you would need a semi-automatic, high-velocity, high-powered rifle as opposed to a handgun? Because I can't.
It's gonna kill you the same if you ask me. Like, or if you shoot to kill, that's kind of the thing when you take gun safety classes, or if you take any type of conceal and carry type classes here in the United States, they'll kind of tell you, like, you are like police and things like that. Like, you shoot to, like, you're not just, you don't have a gun so you can just be like, I'm just gonna shoot whatever because it's funny. Like, I mean, you're kind of, that's the thing. Someone breaks into your home. There are still laws, you guys. I don't want to sidetrack us, but there's laws about that. Can you just like blow somebody's head off because they came into your house? I mean, oh God, hot take.
Some states you can.
Well, no, you can and you can't, but you're still going to end up probably going to jail.
Yeah.
I mean,
and like, I get it. Home defense, like if I lived in the United States and I know that the vast majority of the population carry guns, 100% I would have a gun in my home for home protection. I would not have a military grade assault rifle with telescopic scopes and laser sights. I would just have a gun that would be the last line of defense if I had no other option to solve that problem.
Yeah, and it's for safety, and there's a difference in recreation safety. Are you licensed and trained to own this type of, of a gun? Are you supposed to have this kind? Are you in the police force, FBI? Any of those
Yeah,
things would make it different for someone like that. Secret ops, not secret ops. What? Where am I? Secret ops. It's too much
special
gaming.
ops. Yeah,
That's what I'm
special ops. Yeah,
Girl, anyways, what I'm trying to say is that certain situations would require it to possibly own those things. But yes, an idiot on the street doesn't need to be getting access to that
no.
because
Um,
they're going to do damage. They're going to do
I,
damage.
I agree completely. One thing I will say that is probably a hot take is felons. So if someone has gone to
Yeah.
prison for a crime, regardless of what that crime is, let's for
Mhm.
arguments, let's say it's a violent crime. Let's say it's a gun crime. They've
Yeah.
robbed they've robbed a jewelry store with some guns. They've gone to prison. They've served their time. When they
Hmm.
come back out, I still think they should have access to firearms. And the reason for this
Mm,
is the government has decided that they are safe to be back in society. They have
mm,
served their time. So,
mm.
in theory, they should have that right back. And I know that's a bit of a hot take.
That's a that's
As
a that's a boiling hot take.
Yeah, I knew it would be, which is why I kind of skimmed it,
Yeah.
and we're going to move on now quickly to
Okay.
as
Bye.
for as for arming school teachers, I
Yeah.
do not like this idea at all. Uh, Teachers are meant to keep our children safe. Now,
Yes.
some teachers have mental breakdowns. Some teachers have really difficult students to control
Yeah.
and groups of students who get rowdy and get loud. And I don't think giving a teacher a gun and they have a mental breakdown is a good
Yeah.
idea. I don't think having a gun in a classroom full of rowdy teenagers is a good idea because
No. No, no,
does
no,
it all
no.
of a sudden become a point where the teacher pulls a Glock to get them all to sit down and do their work? It's like,
I mean, you just don't know the mental stability, and they don't have to go through a psychiatric evaluation. Sorry, I
no,
can't talk. And I mean, like to be a teacher, it's not the same as being a police officer or something in that caliber. Uh,
no.
you know what I
And
mean? So
yeah, and it's
they're
like
just
you don't,
people.
yeah, exactly that. And they're just as prone to an accident or having a bad day as everybody
Yeah.
else. Um,
Same, girl. I have bad days where I'm like, if I had a hand grenade, I'd probably throw this shit out in the yard. But like, I'm really not. I'm really not. But like, you think the intrusive thoughts are fine to have. We all have them. Don't
yeah,
act on them. But like, you have them, and sometimes you're like, you feel like that. But anyways, yeah, no, don't do those things. Please don't.
no, and if we simplify this one step further, so
Yeah,
let's say that all these teachers are going to be perfect all the time and they're never going to have a bad day and they're never going to
yeah,
have rowdy students and it's just perfect. They've got their gun in their little cabinet
no.
and they're there to deal with a school shooting. Let's give that scenario. At what point is the solution to stop school shootings putting more firearms in classrooms?
Yeah, I
It
don't agree with.
doesn't.
No, I'm with you 100%. Like, I don't agree with that. I don't think
No,
that anybody outside of law enforcement in that setting. Let me repeat this, in that setting, so no one comes and attacks me for having my opinion, because they will.
they
Uh,
will. Yeah.
yeah, I don't give a fuck anyway. You know how I am. Like, it's whatever. But what I'm saying is, I'm trying to clarify, just like my spoiler warning on your show or movie. The thing is, they shouldn't have it. They don't need it. It's not necessary.
No.
The whole thing is, if you have guns on campus, it should be by a police officer, security of some
Yeah.
caliber of that. That way, that they're being paid to kind of put their life on the line. The teachers, to me, it's like, that's a whole different problem with the way they get paid and stuff like that. So no teacher wants to do that. I'm telling
No.
you, I guarantee you, most teachers don't want to do that shit.
No. I agree.
No,
Um,
no.
Sadly, I think that school shootings will
Mm.
continue to be a regular occurrence in the United States unless there is some stricter gun controls in place. From an
Yep.
outsider looking in, it seems very much that the government doesn't want to do anything. It seems they're very much like all of their campaigns is like one party's going, we're going to put tighter gun control. The other party's going, we're not. and neither
Yeah.
party are going to, because the backlash and changing that Second Amendment right is such a political and legal land like minefield. It's so difficult to do.
Yeah.
On a slightly separate note, the Constitution of the United States was drafted and signed in 1787, with the right
Mhm.
to bear arms was added and passed into the bill in 1789. And it was
Mhm.
completely signed off and agreed in 1791. In 1791, the most deadly firearm was a single shot flintlock musket. Now, I wonder, had there been the same weaponry we have now in 1791, would this
Mhm.
have even been written into the Constitution? Would they still have signed off if they realized a single man could gun down 19 children and 2 adults in a matter of minutes?
I don't think so because
I don't.
I
It's a complete.
it's hard to make the yes or no. So let me refrain a little bit. But it's hard for me. I said that with such confidence, but now I'm sort of like, well, but but there's always a big ass. It's like a big old booty behind everything because you're like, well, would they? But we weren't alive then. And like things were so it just everything was different.
Yeah, and this is one of the things I find that's really strange. So everyone will go, "It's my Second Amendment right." No, your Second Amendment
Yeah.
right was to carry a single shot flintlock musket. That's what your Second Amendment right
No,
was.
I get what you're saying, but
When
they're
they when
taking
they
yeah.
when they wrote it, they didn't say your Second Amendment right is to have in your home 37 high impact rifles, 15 shotguns, a hand grenade, and 27 handguns. That's
Bitch,
not
you
what
ain't
they said.
Rambo. Like that's my thing. It didn't say you could be like Rambo. Okay, you ain't supposed to
Yeah,
be carrying magazines and shit with you. No.
and maybe they would have, and I get the fact that it is a right in the United States, and I
It
know
is.
I'm
Yeah.
poking a little bit of fun here, but I am just
No, it
I'm
is what it
pointing out
is.
how different it was in 1790 when this was a thing to now.
Yeah.
What's your overall thoughts on this? How would
Oh
you
God.
solve how do you solve this problem?
Okay, first off, you can't. I don't think that there is an actual solution to this problem. I'm going to be 100% honest with you guys because I think that instead of us trying to find an actual solution, we're going to try to find things that lead up to a solution. We're going to try to find ways of prevention because we can't, I don't think that we'll ever be able to completely stop it. And I
Yeah,
think that even if we allow our schools, like the highest of securities, everything, right? Like you can do everything that is like protocol.
yeah,
Will there still be someone that slips through those cracks? Absolutely, because people are people and you can't be perfect and it's not going to happen. But and my thoughts on that are as far as like should people have guns and et cetera, et cetera. I think, like you mentioned, you went over a lot of important points and a lot of what you said, you guys. I'm not trying to like suck on his ass, but like literally, that's what it is. I agree with Scott on almost everything, and it's I think some people should not be allowed to have guns. Like when you were saying the convicted felon and they could get out of jail for a gun crime, I do not think that they should be allowed that privilege. It's a privilege, if you ask me, as a right to live in the United States. They should not be allowed a gun for, let's say, like 5 years. Or let's say for X amount until they can prove that they can be an upstanding citizen, right? They don't
see,
they don't reoffend.
yeah,
That's
see
the
that,
problem.
yeah, see that
They'll
makes
go
sense.
reoffend.
So if they're on,
They will.
yeah, so if they're on parole for a certain amount of time, let's say they've got a year's parole while they're
Yes.
released.
And they
Let's
can't
say,
have anything anyways during that time, or they
yeah,
will just go right back to jail.
exactly that. So let's say that year parole. Let's say you're on year parole, and then you get another year or another 2 years after that where you're not
Hmm.
allowed to own a firearm.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
this is where it gets complicated. Is like if there's a drunk driver who mows down 15 people and gets sent to jail, and then they
Yeah.
get released, they can walk out of the jail straight across the road to a car dealership, buy a car, and drive home. And it's like,
There
how
are
it is. I understand that guns are deemed as different, but a car and a gun are equally as lethal in the hands of the wrong
No,
person.
they are. But to inform you a little bit on the if someone, let's say they get a DUI, DWI, whatever you want to call it, they a lot of the times, especially here, I don't know about other states because I don't live in those states, so I don't know what the laws are. But here, like basically, they be not playing around with that shit, and they'll take your fucking license away.
Yeah.
So technically, it's not as easy as being like, oh, I went to jail for 8 months or whatever for drunk driving and blah blah blah. It costs a shit ton of money. You have all this court hoopla to jump through. And on top of that, you're going to, depending on the offense and how, like, breathless, it's a lot of shit that goes into it. Okay.
Yeah.
But basically, you wouldn't be able to be so easy. Like, you can't, this is the thing. You can drive without a license. Yeah. If you want to be a fucking idiot, go ahead. You can, but you're going to get you're going to get arrested. You're going to get in trouble. So, to me, yes, they're both lethal, and drunk driving is horrible. These school shootings to me it's hard to put them into categories. They're both fucking horrible things
I agree.
that happen. But
I agree. I'm playing devil's advocate more than anything else. I'm trying to show.
No, I know what you're trying to say, and I get that. And I never get political, and so I'm sure my husband's listening to me in the other room, being like, "That bitch." But he knows, like, we will argue about it. Like, Scott, I'm serious. Like, I'm so opinionated about certain things, about everything. And
I'll say not certain things. That's why we tell everyone this is an opinionated show. It's not me, it's you.
No, but whatever. But no, seriously, like, people are going to say what they want to say. We have listeners that have made their comments, and that's fine, out of respect, because I know some of them. Like, that's your opinion. That's fine. It's not about taking guns away from people. It's not about like, oh, you blah blah blah. Criminals have them. You'll never be able to take them away. I don't really think that that's the point. I think that what it is what you're saying is, let's make it harder for people to obtain a gun in the first place, and at least we can cut down. We're taking little slices out, right? Yeah. We can at least cut down a little bit at a time. If he had not been able to purchase a gun
until he was 20, so he purchased the gun as he turned 18.
18,
so,
exactly.
So that's 3 years later. So in that 3 years,
could he have gotten a gun? Right? Yeah, probably, maybe. But the point is like, it just makes it a little harder, and let's make it a little more difficult.
Yeah,
to
and not
obtain that.
Like, in those 3 years, he may have, like, he may not have gone home and shot his grandmother that day. He may have gone home and had a big row with his grandmother. His grandmother may have sat him down that evening. They may have talked things through.
He may have been arrested. He may have went into a mental health facility. Not that we really have those here, but like, you know what I mean.
But like, anything could have happened in those 3 years, but it didn't, because he got access to a gun, and it's that
and he
simple.
was planning on it. Like, he was waiting to turn 18. And see, also, like you saying, you have to be 21 in order to drink alcohol. Yes. Also, they let you go into the military when you're 18. And to me, that's a fucking massive responsibility. Like, are you serious? Like, you can go put your life on the line when you're basically still a baby. I'm sorry. You're still a child to me when you're 18. 21, we're barely getting over it. Like, okay, you're sort of an adult, but not really still yet in my mind.
Yeah. We've got some bullshit laws here. Probably our biggest one here is the legal age of consent. So the legal age of consent in the United Kingdom is 16.
Oh, so Lordy have mercy.
So get this. At 16, you can't buy alcohol. You can't go and watch an 18 rated movie or an R rated movie in the United States.
But you can have sex.
You can go to an orgy. That's fine. That's absolutely cool at 16, but you cannot go and buy a beer. It's the weirdest thing ever.
Well, there are certain states here in the United States where the age of consent is 16. I don't know particularly, so don't fact check me, guys. Don't fucking come at me. Don't DM me about shit. I'm just saying some states because I don't know, but I've just in general heard of it. And I believe it's 18 here, I believe. I know I live here, but like, I fucking hate this place, so I don't really know. But I think it's 18. But my thing is like, it's 16. I mean, let me do a little PSA real quick. at 16, y'all don't fuck. Don't do that. Y'all, it ain't even enjoyable. Don't do it. Just wait. Because it ain't, y'all gonna be like so sad. Don't wait. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Wait
Yeah.
until they've grown up into a big boy and have a normal size private part. At 16, they barely have a dick. Just being honest. Like, they don't. Like, why would you? That's so gross. Like, what are you gonna do? Nothing. It's not, you don't even know what nothing is yet. We had to make it light. I had to bring comedy.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
That's 100% getting clipped as the trailer for this episode. I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's shared their opinion, whether we agreed with you or not. I think it's something that everyone is entitled to an opinion on it, and it's an open discussion, and it's not my place to turn around and go, I think you're wrong. It's my place to say, well, I think this, and that's how conversations start, by two opinions and people meeting in the middle.
Yeah.
And at no point saying, well, I think you're wrong, you're an idiot. You don't do that. And you kind of, if you don't do that, at some point you'll find a compromise that works for everybody as best it can.
I mean, Scott, I do that actually.
Yeah.
But not like, that's my thing. It's different in a personal relationship versus when I'm speaking with someone else or our listeners. If I did get a message or something, I would not be disrespectful. I don't 100% agree, like with everything that's always said. Of course, nobody does. No. But out of respect, I'm going to be like, you have your opinion, that's fine. We're still cool. Like, yeah, it's different levels of respect.
There was one more thing I wanted to share. So we had lots of people reach out to me in DMs, especially on TikTok, when I released the video asking for people's opinions. There was something I discussed with a lady about a TikTok post, and she sent me a link to a TikTok post that I went and watched. And honestly, it is the most tragic and upsetting thing I've ever seen. So there's a mum, and she's talking to the camera about her little girl who's just about to turn 9. And the little girl wants to have light up shoes. The shoes that when you walk, the heels light up. She wants to have those, but they don't have the best security at their school. And the mum is very aware of this. So the mum won't buy this little girl those light up shoes for her birthday because she's worried if there is a school shooting, she is just a glowing neon target. And that is tragic.
Isn't it sad that it's really makes you start to reflect, to think like the simplicity of just being alive and being a child and a human, that you can't even just do those things because of the fear that we have as parents here, that if we send our child to school with some fun sneakers on, they're going to be targeted and be shot. Already worrying about it on top of not having the sneakers. It's sad. Like, this is not supposed to me. It's not how the world should work. And it's sad. And that's all I can say. Like, it's horrible. I'm
going to kind of end this by saying this is a serious issue in the United States in particular. And I hope that we have added to this conversation. I'm not saying we're going to change the world, but the more people who talk about this, the bigger an issue it becomes. And eventually someone within the United States government is going to do something. It will happen eventually.
It will possibly. Let's just hope. It's one of those things where you just don't know, and you don't know to what extent, and you don't know at what cost it's going to cost you. And
exactly.
I don't want to hear. My biggest thing is I don't want to hear all the bitching about, you can't take my guns away. Like, nobody is. Calm your tits down. That's not what we're talking about. No. I want my child safe. I want everybody's children safe.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the point. Let's think about our generations of children that are going to be in this world when we leave this planet, this place. We have our children that are still going to be here that have children too. Why don't we want to just make it as safe as we can for them? That's my whole point.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Thank you.
We are back in February with a brand new case picked by all of you. And it's going to be a real treat because it's the first time in the history of this show that me and Heather have completely polar opposite takes.
That thing is trying to piss me off, to be honest. Like, part of me is like,
If anyone's heard Heather on a couple of episodes of Horror Movie Review, me and Heather could go at it, and I think next
Yeah.
episode you may get that.
We are. We're going to be arguing. 100% sure. Write
Yeah,
that down in your fucking constitution.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing an episode that is not only voted by you, but it's super relevant in the news right now, which never
Yes.
happens.
Very fresh. Very fresh.
Very fresh, and you can now follow along live on Instagram. We're going to be following the story of Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited though, because like I love that type of true crime, and I have some opinions. This
Oh,
is the
so
thing,
do
I don't
I.
even need to do research. I know. Don't. This is me, y'all. That's me.
Yeah.
Joke,
Yeah.
but anyways,
Next time's going to be fun. But until then, Heather, can you sign us off?
I will sign us off. Okay, guys, it's a new year. We're in 2024. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I can't wait to do the next episode because I'm going to probably verbally abuse Scott. So you guys just calm down. But anyways, you guys, it's 2024. Let's keep this year safe. Let's keep it spooky, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you all later.